You are listening to Naked Soul Reflections, Mindful Moments for Clothes-Free Living, with your host, Hantu Nehart.
Greetings, everyone. Hantu Nehart here, and welcome to another episode of Naked Soul Reflection. This week, I want to explore what you stand for. This past weekend, I attended the Women's March on Washington in Washington, D.C. And for me, one of the reasons I went was to stand for autonomy over one's own body. So having the right to my own body, having dealt with rape before, just standing for autonomy, standing for I'm not asking for it, standing for just the right to be in charge of my own body. And it was interesting as well to be in the crowd with so many other people and observing what motivated others to attend and the things for which others stood. And to be honest, not all of them were necessarily focused on women and gender issues. Some of it was like anti-Russia or anti-Trump. Some of it was about climate change and environmentalism. So people kind of took the opportunity presented by the Women's March to march for anything that was important to them. And whatever political or social convictions one might have, the practice of standing for something that is important to us is key. It's key. It could be something as simple as standing for your own health, wellness, and balance. It could be standing for someone you love, standing for their safety, standing for them in a particular situation. It could be standing for so many things. I know that as an example of a smaller scale or something in a different context, I've committed to standing for balance and wellness in my body, in my mind, in my life. And so what that looks like sometimes, for instance, at work, when everybody has something that needs to get done right away, because to each of them it's all last minute, rush, has to happen right away, I can actually take a stand and say, I'm not going to feed into the madness. I realize that everyone has requests that need to be addressed, and I am not going to play into constantly running at 200 miles per hour. I'm not going to do that. I am going to stand for balance. I'm going to still take my lunch break. I'm going to go for a healthy walk. I'm going to commit to those things that keep me balanced so that the work that I do, when I do in fact engage, doesn't suffer, because when I'm not well, the quality of my work decreases. So sometimes I have to do that at work, to stand for my balance so that the quality of my work stays high. And that also contributes to, my office's quality of work, not allowing random things to go crazy by, feeding into the frenzy, but actually taking a pause and being the one person who will take a pause and say, nope, we are not going to do that today, can actually help us stop approving things or doing things that really aren't ready to move forward or that aren't good ideas. It can really help us to stay grounded. Sometimes standing for my health means saying no when I get invitations from friends to go to parties and hang out. When I know that I need that time alone to regroup, to come back, to replenish, I have to be a stand for that and say, no, thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it. And I need to stay home. I will see you in a few days. So standing for something is a very important practice because there can be so much chaos in the world, and we can end up feeding into that chaos when we assume that everything has to happen quickly, fast, now, big. And sometimes you have to be the one to say, I'm no longer feeding into the frenzy. I'm no longer feeding into the chaos. And that is a radical thing to do. It's a radical thing to say, stop. Pause. It's a radical thing in any situation to be the one to go against the madness, the mindlessness, the grain. And yet, those radical moments are the things that we as individuals and that we in our collective, in our communities need. We need someone who's going to insist on balance. So I invite you into that inquiry this week, whatever that looks like, because it could take many different shapes. Maybe you're standing for someone who's in a pickle, who's in a situation that's complicated and they need an advocate. Maybe you're standing with them as an advocate. Maybe you're standing for them if you see someone engaging in an unhealthy activity. Maybe you're the one to say, hey friend, hey family member, it's time for you to get some professional help with the situation. Maybe you're standing for your own health. Maybe you're standing for a political situation, a social issue, an economic policy. Whatever it is in your life, take some time to step back and identify what's important to you and why it's important to you. You know, another thing that for me, clothes-free living in and of itself and naturism really helped me commit to standing for my health and standing for things that are organic and natural and good for the human body. Realizing that sitting at a desk all day for 8 hours straight with a tiny lunch break, even though that's what someone decided was a good idea, it doesn't mean that it's healthy. You know, people make rules and regulations for lots of different reasons, but it doesn't mean that it's a good idea. Once I went camping clothes-free and just spent days on end in nature, breathing fresh air, even in my sleep while in a tent, just being outside and exposed to the sun, I realized that's actually healthy. It's healthy to be outside every day exposed to the sun. And I realized how crazy it was that I would go for days on end without really mindfully spending time walking outside, being outside, appreciating and breathing the fresh air. It's weird to not do that. But I have been in that practice of you just go and go and go, and you just work all day, and then you go home and you incubate and you huddle, and I lost that connection with nature. And naturism and clothes-free living helped me realize how unnatural that is. And so now I take a stand for that. I take a break. I make myself get up from my desk and go outside. Because that's what's natural. That's what's healthy. That's what's good. And so really think about that this week. For what are you standing? what is important to you and why, and list some very concrete ways and commit to those concrete ways of insisting on that. Something that's healthy, something that's wholesome, something that's good, that when you do it, it not only benefits you, but it benefits your community and your collective. Just by all the ways in which it balances you out, it affects how you show up in the rest of the world. As always, I'm engaging in the exact same work with you this week, and my heart is with you. Namaste.